So today we are going to talk about the adventures of Murder Gandhi, a fictional character,
Thank you.
to explain the concept of slippery slopes.
I got worried for a moment putting those two words together.
So I'll first give two examples, then we'll talk about the concept. Okay. In our fictional world, Gandhi is a pacifist, absolutely against violence.
Very close to the real world.
And there is billionaire who comes over. Billionaire is a little crack.
Of course.
Okay. So tells Gandhi that I will donate $1 billion for the upliftment of the downtrodden, but in return you have to take this medicine which converts you into a murderer.
Not taking it.
Gandhi is not going to take it.
Of course not taking it.
Okay. But billionaire is smart. He comes back, he creates a new medicine which increases the chance of Gandhi thinking murderous thoughts to 1% from 0%.
Oh.
Okay. And he says, okay, you take this 1% medicine and in return I will use $1 billion for the upliftment of the downtrodden. Do you think he will take it?
It's a decent trade, or 1% is
nothing, right? I mean, just getting murderous thoughts just
doesn't mean you're going to act on it.
You're not going to do anything about it, right? Gandhi takes it, right? Nothing changes as far as violence is concerned. Every once in a while he gets a violent thought, but it's like, he discards it.
It's just a thought. He discards it. Yeah.
Now the billionaire comes back and says, can you take this medicine again?
For another $1 billion?
For another $1 billion, you go from 1% to 2%.
Oh.
And Gandhi says, you know what, that 1% was not so bad. It was easy to suppress. 2% doesn't seem bad. And I can see how many people are being helped by the $1 billion.
Yes.
Right? Okay, we do this 10 times. Now Gandhi is having murderous thoughts quite
10%
regularly,
of the
10% of the time. And when the billionaire comes back, what is going to happen?
I hope Gandhi rejects those $1 billion.
Well, that's where you're probably wrong, right? The original Gandhi, the pacifist, would definitely have rejected it.
Yeah.
But it's not the original Gandhi.
It's a
Gandhi
10%
who's been thinking murderous thoughts, slowly increasing murderous thoughts for 10 years, right?
I bet he has murderous thoughts about the billionaire now.
No, not the billionaire, but he has a list of people where he thinks, you know what, these are better off dead. Right? It's not
fictional case. Fictional case. Let me please underline fictional.
Remember, the important point is that the person who's taking the 11th pill is not the same person
who took the first one.
Right? And this just continues. At any point, right, at 67%, he thinks, you know what, 67 to 68 is not such a big deal.
Yeah.
And before you realize it, Gandhi is running wild, shooting people in Delhi.
There is an image I didn't want to have. There is a visual I didn't want to think about.
So you realize what is happening here.
What?
It was a slippery slope.
Right?
Now
it makes sense.
He should have said no the first time.
Okay, but listen, that's Gandhi. This is a fictional scenario.
Okay, let me give a real scenario. Okay, Rahul, name changed. Sensible guy.
Different, Rahul. Think kuch hota hai. Don't think yatra.
Oh, sorry. No. So a different guy, sensible guy, is going out on Friday night with a bunch of friends. He knows that 2 glasses of alcohol is good. It gives him a nice buzz and he doesn't do anything embarrassing. More than 2 is a problem. He knows that. So he has decided there's a limit. 2 is his limit. Right? So he goes 1 hour later. He's had 2. He's feeling nice. And his friends say, come on, yaar, take one more.
Right? These sound like my friends.
Remember, it's the same concept. The sensible Rahul from 7 p.m. would have refused the 3rd drink. But this is not the same guy, right? This is a guy who's 2 drinks down. His inhibitions have been reduced by the alcohol in the system.
Very important point.
He thinks that Rahul is like that Rohan. He thinks that Rohan is like too good for his own good, right? And he needs to loosen up a little bit and have some fun in life. So now he's had the 3rd drink. And before you know it, he's like 6 drinks down and doing really embarrassing shit, right?
How many of you identified with this scenario?
Nobody, none of the people here drink, right? I'll give an example where, Shrikant, name changed, okay, sits and decides that, okay, I'm going to play Civilization just until 10 o'clock, okay? Because tomorrow morning I have to get up early, there's an important presentation at work. So just until 10 o'clock, I'm going to play Civilization, then I will stop.
I don't like this example.
Right?
This is too close
So
to
he plays
home.
for 2 hours. At 10 o'clock, he thinks, you know what? I can play 15 minutes more. And fine, tomorrow morning, I'll sleep 15 minutes less. Seems like a fair trade-off,
Absolutely fair trade-off.
right?
Because I've done it.
Why is this happening? There is a different concept called hyperbolic discounting, right? Because 15 minutes in the future does not cost the same as 15 minutes now, right? You value the 15 minutes now far more than the 15 minutes tomorrow.
Yeah, we are all trained to get instant gratification for
No,
ourselves.
not just that. I mean, even like money, right? 100 rupees next year and 100 rupees today are very different.
I'll take the 100
right?
rupees today.
So
yes.
that's what. So Shrikant plays another 15 minutes, and at 10:15, he says, you know what? Another 15 minutes is not going to be, right? I mean, before you know it, it's like 4 a.m. and Shrikant is asking himself, what is wrong with me? The idea of a slippery slope is that you're standing on a flat ground just before a slope, and that slope is like has some slimy stuff on it, which is very slippery. At the bottom is probably a dragon which is going to eat you, right? You don't want to step on that slope because once you are on that slope, you can't stop.
Yeah,
Right?
it's out
There
of
is
your
no
control.
place to stop. It is out of your control. The only time you can control it is at the beginning. Do not enter the slope. And this isn't just funny examples like this, right? Lots of situations in life have this problem.
I want an example with Naveen now. I've had enough of examples of Rohan and Shrikant.
Yeah.
I want an example with Naveen.
Yeah, so I will give an example of myself. I went to the US after my undergraduate.
Yeah.
I was there, I went in 92.
Huh.
Okay. Around that time, one of the biggest problems used to be that kids go there and they never come back to India. Right?
Still the same,
My
but yeah.
mom is unhappy, my grandfather is unhappy, and my profs were unhappy. Right?
Yeah.
I wanted, by 94, I had decided I wanted to come back.
Okay.
But lots of people told me about a concept called the X+1 syndrome. Okay.
Okay.
The reason so many people who wanted to come back end up staying there is because they, say, okay, fine, let me finish my degree, then I'll do a job for a couple of years, earn some money, then go back.
Okay.
Once you're doing a job for a couple of years, of course, everybody is telling you to get married, and you say, okay, fine, let me get married, have some fun here for a couple of years, then I'll go back. Couple of years after your marriage, you tell yourself, you know what, let me have children here, let them have an American passport, then we'll go back. You realize what is happening here. What is this? It's a slippery slope. And there's a famous article somebody had written about it called the X+1 syndrome, because there is always X. You're saying, I will go back after X, but when you reach X, it has become X+1.
Yeah.
My friend Sandeep Gupta, thank you, he told me, if you really want to go back, pick a number, a very round figure, right? Either a date, saying that before this date I will go back, or a bank balance, saying when my bank balance hits this number, I will go back. And let that be a line in the sand, a Lakshman Rekha. I thought that was a good idea, and I said, before the end of the century, I will go back.
For him, the end of the century also turned out to be the end of the millennium.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And in fact, that is what we did. Right? I got married in 97. End of 99, my wife was doing an MBA. She hadn't finished. So we cheated a little bit. We said end of century is 2000. November 2000, we left and we were in India in January 2001. Right?
Took a long time.
Why did that work?
Why did that work?
Because this 2000 is a nice round figure. It is such a clear marker, right? 2000 is not the same as 2001,
Yeah.
right? You would know if you say, let me go in 2001, you know that there's no difference between 2001 and 2002, 2002 and 2003, right?
Right.
This concept of this round, clear, psychological 2000 number, right? It's called a Schelling point, by the way. We'll do an episode on it. Very important concept, but very difficult to explain. So I'm slowly building up to that.
That's Schelling, spelled S-H?
Schelling, Schelling, based on Thomas Schelling, a very famous economist whose ideas helped in US and Russia not bombing each other with nuclear bombs. Okay.
All right.
So
That's
we'll
a
come to that.
good selling point for me to read up more on the
Yes,
subject.
he was consultant on Doctor Strangelove. Okay, so
Another good selling point.
that is an example of how you avoid slippery slopes. Either you don't get on it at all, or if you get on, the cutoff should be such a clear, bright line that it is difficult to ignore. That, you can't later on convince yourself, oh, this is the same as this next one.
All right. So to take the example of my gaming habits, what I should have said is, if I sleep after midnight, I'm not going to get enough sleep and my presentation is going to get ruined. So I have to sleep at midnight. Midnight becomes my...
Maybe, right? Because midnight is actually, at least for me, it's not as much of a bright line as possible. So the other technique is to put the control in somebody else's hand. Right? Like have a friend who will come and yank out the cord at midnight.
Yeah. Right? We should all have friends like that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you should.
Lots of psychological techniques like this where the decision is taken out of your hand, right? Like you tell a friend, you give them a lot of money and you tell them, feel free to spend it upon yourself if I do X on this date.
Oh.
Right? So otherwise you have to return it to me if I stick to my line.
Yeah, I'm a little wary about giving money to friends, but the concept and the point still stands and they are pretty strong. The thing about slippery slopes that I'm worried about is that they can often be misinterpreted and they can be misapplied, if that's even a word, because there was this very famous argument using the concept of a slippery slope where people would say, and this is an example I'm giving. If you allow homosexuality to flourish in the society, then it will soon lead to bestiality and pedophilia and even worse kind of.
So see, one thing you have to realize is that slippery slope actually works only if the stages are different stages of the same thing, right? 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they're all times, right? Whereas different behaviors are just completely different from each other. There is no
sliding from homosexuality to
bestiality, right? They're not the same thing. It's not like a person starts doing this and they'll automatically get interested in this, right? It's not a continuum. These are different category things. So slippery slope argument doesn't apply there. In fact, lots of people love to apply slippery slope arguments in such places, but they're wrong, right? You have to apply it only when there is an actual continuum.
Another situation where slippery slopes tend to usually trouble is when you are a parent and you are probably giving, say, tech to your child because the child refuses to sit and eat dinner.
So again, same two concepts, right? I mean, especially with children, there is no shelling point. Okay, that you're saying half an hour you get off the phone doesn't work, like, because half an hour becomes 35 minutes, 35 becomes 40. So either zero, there is no phone in the house at all, or the control is somewhere else. An app which just automatically cuts off access after 30 minutes and nobody can change that. So now that we have learned this concept, let me warn you, right? Don't overuse this argument.
Like how?
Like, I mean, if you're saying that I shouldn't do this because it's a slippery slope and things will change, right?
Okay.
Just avoiding doing anything because everything is a slippery slope is just a way for you to become an old trusty dinosaur who's out of touch with the modern world, right?
Old trusty dinosaur.
Do not use this in a limited number of places, right? Not everything is a slippery slope, and there are a whole bunch of slippery slopes that you do want to fall down. Like old people saying that all marriages should be arranged marriages and allowing any slight deviation in that is a slippery slope. You know, it's a good slippery slope. Boss, have you seen arranged marriages?
But listen, we are going back to the concept of arranged marriages in a sense. If you look at Tinder, it is basically what used to happen over chai nashta poha. But on your swipes, left and right, what else? I am right. You know I am right. You know I am right. Tinder is a precursor to modern arranged marriages. Prove me wrong. don't actually. Actually do. Good fun. I agree about the fact that not everything is a slippery slope. And is there like a guideline to figure out what slippery slope and what not to?
Actually, that part is a little tricky, but maybe we will cover it when we talk about pace layers, right? To decide which things you should change fast and which things you should think of as slippery slopes.
Pace layers. So by the time you watch this episode, if that episode is already done and available, you'll find it in the show notes. If not, we'll get to it. We'll definitely get to it. There are a lot of things that me and Naveen need to talk about, and we will talk about them. But for now, this is it. Shrikant, Naveen.
Thank you.
This is Future IQ.